Welcome to the Dynasty Podcast. We are back a little bit late, but ready to rock and roll. We're going to do all three divisions today. I am your host, Corey Sal Paradiso Hahn, and as always, joined by my brother from another mother, Mr. Ben Ziegler, Jesus and the Guacho Barachos. Fuck, man. We're going to start this off with a bang right away. The Dynasty brothers, were able to secure a one-time only limited edition special interview with Fleece City. It's fucking
What?
fantastic. Yep.
Wait, what is
Yep.
this?
Yeah, we worked with a anonymous source that located.
Don't say we. I don't know what's going on here.
Well, the brothers. You're one of the brothers. So if I do something, you're involved with
The
it.
royal we.
Yep. We were able to not only secure Fleece's location through an anonymous source. We were able to pin him down, get him available for an interview. As we thought, he chose to be blacked out, not blackout, drunk like we are always, but blacked out so we can't see his face, and some voice manipulation. But
wait, you have a video? You have a video?
We are going to play it live on the Dynasty Brother podcast right now. He was a little bit upset, apparently, Fleece, about the review that we gave of his team last week. So that was the extra motivation for him to.
All right, I'll figure this out later.
All right, here we go. Here we go.
Whatever.
This is amazing stuff, everybody. It's about a 5-minute interview, so enjoy. I'm going to share my screen, hopefully, if I can figure out how to do that. You know that I'm technically not the best. And we're going to go from there. Where do I share my screen? There we go. Here we go. Try not to laugh. I dare you. Can you see my screen, Ben?
Yeah.
There he is. Enjoy, fellas.
Oh, man.
Like it's his league, and he's a total cunt. It's pathetic. He's obviously overcompensating because he has a very teeny tiny wiener, and it shows. It's sad. Total microphallus. He's taken too many no-cock-at-all pills. His little American pecker is nothing like my massive Canadian dong that hangs low and proud, and shoots buckets of goo sweeter than maple syrup. We are not the same person, I assure you. That guy is a total loser jackass. Chip. I'm very excited to be invited on the Dynasty podcast, but I'm worried the dean of my college might expel me if he sees Sal's asshole on our internet firewall system, and we all know Sal likes to share his brown starfish with all his guests. If you're going to show it, at least give it a good wipe first, Sal. Chip. I'm also concerned that I could get in trouble if my parents see I'm in a league with pothead, alcoholics like Jesus and the Mighty Orphans. They might think I'm into gay pornography because of Argo's sexy French accent and mustache. Chip. Also, Candy is always talking about pulling his meat out. He and Argo are clearly lovers, and Candy has shown he'll do anything for Argo's affection. I believe he has swallowed Argo's baby juice in order to complete a trade. There was a leaked audio recording of it and it sounded like this. Delicious.
What the fuck?
I'm a poor, lonely college student and I fucking deserve to win this league. I can't believe Candy won before me, and Vito has won twice. Total bullshit. I should have won the Super Pot, but Georgia got lucky and beat me. Then he lost, like a pussy, to Lazy Bears. Ha. And the Lazy Bears live somewhere around the North Pole and should be playing fantasy dog sled racing, not fantasy football. Why do no good teams ever win this damn league anyway? Chip. I had Devontae Adams for years, but Sal spent his kids' college savings on him at the auction. So now I get fucked. Great. Thanks a lot for pricing me out of my own guy, Sal, you dick. My parents didn't bother saving any money for that are allowing me to get my third liberal arts degree. Wayne is very supportive of liberal arts and supports all gender identity politics. And he wants to remind you all to get vaccinated and live a carbon-neutral lifestyle. Shit, shit, shit. That boy's is some
Jesus.
piece of work, isn't he? That clown takes over a monster roster designed by Techno Vikings and his tanking bullshit. And, with that huge advantage, what has Bad Boys won? Nothing. Nada. Not jack shit. He also makes terrible offers, then bitches about offers you send him. He sucks. I need a good deal. My tight ends are more like loose twas. Fleece is struggling. Chip, chip, chip. Here on campus, the cafeteria food sucks. We tried to tell Dean Wormer it was bad, but he said, the time has come for someone to put his foot down. And that foot is me. One of my frat brothers banged that shit-stain's wife. But that's another story. Now it's time I put my own foot down. Right now. And put all you dumbasses on notice. Fleece City is not and never will be that fucking prick. Georgia Warhorse. Stop with the conspiracy theory bullshit and take it from the horse's mouth. I'm not Fleece. Shit. I mean, I am not Georgia Warhorse. I'm just a college student trying not to fail out in my 7th year and end up in the Peace Corps. I enjoy blue chip for the cheap entertainment. I only tolerate Georgia Warhorse, like the rest of you, but I wish he'd shut the fuck up sometimes. It's sad, really. I think he's just a total douchebag. I hope he gets monkeypox from Wayne. Please send me an offer for a tight end. Doesn't anyone care that Fleece is struggling? Good luck to all my blue chip bitches this weekend. That is all. Chip, chip, chip.
That
Holy
is it.
fucking shit.
What a lucky,
Wow.
what a lucky group we are to have witnessed that interview
Wow.
from Fleece. Pure
I-
magic.
I mean, why don't we just cut from here? What are we gonna do to entertain people after that? I mean,
don't know, man.
obviously, despite wow. First of all, 5 minutes and 25 seconds of work and editing there was just amazing. The script was incredible. The film I would call riveting. Holy hell. Give it
Yeah, I
5
mean,
stars
it-
out of 5.
It just upped the overall quality of what we're capable of doing here at the Dynasty Brothers by a level 3 enhancement there. Just Yeah,
Oh,
pretty much on
Jesus.
brand as well. I think some jabs at some other GMs and some just pure comedy. So we're lucky to
Oh,
have
that's-
gotten that. Got that
I'm gonna
exclusive with
assume
Fleece.
that Georgia made that, even though I don't know for sure. I'm pretty sure I know your writing style enough to know those insults didn't come out of your mouth. I don't know who fucking made that's got to be Georgia. Only
I
Georgia
don't
would
think it
take
really
that much
puts the
time to make it.
conspiracy to bed necessarily either. I think if anybody was watching,
Well,
along,
yeah,
maybe
if
they
it's
could make
it could be Fleece as Georgia.
we
I
could
don't
have
know, maybe
created a
we gotta-
monster with that whole.
We might need to go back
theory.
and look at some Fleece Georgia trades in the past 5 years.
That could be a podcast
that
in
was
itself
incredible.
for sure. Anyway, we got to
Yeah,
move on. We
every
have a
narrative.
jam-packed show today. We're going to do 3 freaking divisions because that's what we do. We're professionals. We're trying to get this done. We missed getting it done by the opening act yesterday. So let's start there and review the game. What your first thoughts of the season are on the Rams and Bills. And then we're going to dive into the rest of the 3 conferences today, try to wrap this mother effer up in less than a couple hours. So it'll be a nice and tight, well-executed review of each division. Ben, tell me what you thought of the game last night.
Well, first off, I would like to applaud you for calling us professionals by doing 3 pods after the league started.
Yep.
It's quite the opposite. We are clearly slacking douchebags. However, I do like doing these reviews this late because you can see the full results of teams after cuts, and I don't think we'd really done that before. And it seems like when you're looking through all the teams, you can see how gross it gets.
For
and how
sure.
the panic can settle in on a team that probably thought they were pretty good. So onto the game last night. Corey will tell you that in one of our chats, I said that the Bills were going to face fuck the Rams. I didn't think the Rams did enough to stay relevant. I didn't believe in Allen Robinson was going to be any reform of what he was 3 years ago. So I called a 24-point loss.
I can't remember.
And
You
it
said
wasn't
something
quite
like
that.
30 to 10 or something like that. It was almost dead
34
on.
to 10, I think I said.
Yeah.
So anyways, I called this dominating performance because I do believe that the Bills are the favorites before this game in the AFC. I think they're just so deep everywhere. And kind of even saw in wide receiver. They got a lot of guys last night that were just your boy Crowder, he looked okay. If he's their fourth guy, McKenzie looks good, even though he had that fumble. I think they're going to be a problem.
Yeah,
They'll be a hard team.
The Crowder thing, I've never doubted that he can have some decent games. I just don't think he stays healthy, and I think McKenzie and him are kind of a negative impact.
Collinsworth said something really interesting that that Crowder would have the experience and be smart enough to like pick zones apart.
That's
and
true.
Then in man, they would just take, if they were in man, they would just take McKenzie's speed and athleticism. You know, some of that stuff you kind of overlook in the intricacies of how a coach is going to use certain players in certain scenarios. And that was pretty, so that's interesting to me because you could probably have really big McKenzie games based on schemes he's going against and really big Crowder games. You know,
and they're using
but it
Crowder
looks like
on special teams too. So I mean,
it looks like Gabe Davis and Steph Diggs are just going to completely ball out, and they're going to be like, you know, at worst, like, you know, Diggs Thielen back in the day. I think they're just both going to perform.
Yeah, I mean,
20.
it's obvious that Gabe Davis is going to have 8 to 10 touchdowns minimum this year. Probably not see a huge amount of targets, but if he gets, I mean, anywhere close to 115, 100,
Buffalo
100
didn't
targets,
punt, did they?
They didn't
Did
punt
Buffalo
once.
punt? Yeah.
And they started running the ball pretty effectively in the second half, even though there was fumbles by I think Argo's boy James Cook and freaking
Moss fumbled, which might
Moss as
help.
well. Yeah.
That might help Coke. I thought Coke was going to be just RIP post that first fumble, but that's jitters. And then they got him back on the field, and then Moss fumbled. But Moss looked really good, man.
He
Like,
did look good. I thought he looked explosive, a
know.
lot faster than I thought he was, and powerful. Singletary looked good, so they're kind of interchangeable. All three of those guys, I would say, with Singletary kind of looking like, you know, more the 1 and 2, and like more of a complete 3-down back. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. It wasn't a great start for Cook though either way. Like first of all, he's third. He got in third behind both of those guys, and muffed his first carry. So without very much contact either. I mean, there wasn't significant.
No, I mean, he got it. He got the ball pretty good. He went for the punch. And he
I mean, he better get used to that shit.
No, I agree.
But anyway, I mean, it's a long season. The other takeaways that I had were, I mean, obviously it was very interesting, the usage between Henderson and Akers. And I know they were both dealing with preseason injuries. Maybe it's a case of Henderson being a little bit more healthy to start the season and looking a little bit more explosive in that game. Or it's going to be, you know, sharing the back and forth the series to start the game to see who's a little bit more effective. Henderson, I think, had 5 catches. Akers had 1, but it was considered a run.
Here's a not so hot take. Don't start a single fucking Ram except for Cooper Kupp.
Period. I mean I mean, actually,
on the offensive side,
Higby had 11 targets last night too, which is kind of insane.
Yeah.
Allen Robinson had 2 targets. How the fuck does that happen? I mean, like, you can't. I mean, how? I just don't. I don't understand. I mean, if there's just not comfortability there, or they're
I
just.
didn't see him getting open, man.
You didn't
see him.
I wasn't watching him because I have Cooper Kupp in our league of record, so I was kind of, you know, I was obviously happy with the Cooper Kupp performance, but I just, you know, I mean, you would expected at least 7 to 8 targets to Robinson there, I would have guessed last night, as much as they threw the ball. I mean, Higby getting 11 and Robinson getting 2. I mean, at least divide those in half.
Yeah, but
they're gonna need to find someone else.
Higby's were all dump downs, dude. They were all just these panic dump downs. It's not like There was probably 2 plays that were designed for Higbee. Everything else was Matt Stafford checking down to him.
Well, Higbee dropped
I
a
get
couple
it,
too
but-
that were the design plays. The other
Yeah.
thing is Van Jefferson not being there. He's a reliable guy that they have experience with. So maybe he comes in and takes over Powell and Tutu Atwell's whatever targets.
They
But
didn't even get the bulk of it. It was Stormwich or whatever his name
yeah,
is. the white
Skranovich
dude.
or whatever his name is. Yeah, I mean it's interesting. The McCutcheon kid didn't even get he got deactivated before the game, so I mean that was interesting too. Rams didn't look great. To me, a lot of turnovers, a little bit of sloppy play on both sides of the ball. Cooper
The
Kupp's
both
an absolute
defenses
fucking
played
monster,
pretty
but
good, considering.
Von
I
Miller was
mean,
amazing last night, which was
Yeah.
music to my ears. There was some other good D line play by the Bills. I thought.
I mean, I'm going to be really interested to look at the snap counts on this game because it didn't really blow up till out till the very end, and they were rotating the entire game 3 deep at some of the positions on that D line, but they had like Von Miller almost. Okay, Von Miller was an outside linebacker. He was never putting his hand in the dirt. He was rushing the quarterback every time, majority of times, or rolling the flats. But he was like this is what I'm saying. To say that was a 4-3 is a joke. That was a 3-4, and Von Miller was an outside linebacker who was rushing the passer the most time. He never was moving around. They weren't moving him in some like he was there or like hitting out the passer or dropping off. And the thing is, like outside of him, everyone was super heavily rotated in on that D line. And you saw like Rousseau got his, the D tackles got theirs.
Espinosa got a sack and a
Espinosa
half.
got one, like
1.5 actually.
Yeah, they all ate. You're not gonna see that all the time, I don't think, because I think it always looks good, but then defensive coordinators are gonna look, or offensive coordinators are gonna look at tape and be like, they didn't do this, we'll make sure this happens. But
Well, I mean,
I
at
think
the end
they
of the
came out
day,
pretty strong.
the Bills look like they handled the hype, whooped up on the defending Super Bowl champs at away. They don't have really that hard of a schedule moving forward. They maybe like 6 or 7 games that are really kind of difficult. So to get that road win right away off the season and dominate for the most part. I mean, if they didn't have 3 turnovers, one of them which was basically a drop by McKenzie, like that game is out of hand early, and it wasn't really close. So
Yeah, they dominated the whole game.
yeah.
Cut and dry.
Yeah, and then the 2 fumbles by the running backs was just kind of and actually like one of those I think the Rams capitalized on their touchdown or they turned it right back over. So it was a crazy game. Excited for Sunday, but let's dive into the divisions. We're going to try to fire through these so everybody has their review before the bulk of the week starts. So right off the bat, we're going to start with our conference where Argo, me, you, Georgia, Mandy, newcomer Mort, we got Wayne in this conference, and HH. So it's a jam-packed conference, pretty competitive actually. So let's start with Argo. I think you have Argo, right?
Oh, you want to start with Argo?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, let's start with the man, the myth, the legend right away. Let me share my screen so the viewers can see what we're looking at here. And that's the first one listed in the division, starting with negative 1.6 points to start Thursday.
Yeah, tough break for Argo. That running back situation was obviously banking pretty hard on James Cook. If he gets buried, he's going to have to hope for Ty Chandler return yards coming up in the next few weeks until that situation settles out. But that's a pretty big hit for him because not to say that he needed like 20 points, but you would hope, Cook's getting in there, getting 3 catches and a couple runs and maybe a cheap TD here and there. And he's a playable guy. Now he's going to be second guessing, especially if Ty gets some good yards in return. Not really sure how much he's going to end up getting there. But we know what Argo did. Argo completely blew up his team, sold everything off, got picks, then sold them back. I mean, he did the shuffle like nobody else has ever done, right? Like nobody's just blown it up and rebuilt it in the same year and still kind of almost got to competing, which I don't think he can. I think he's going to try based on how many moves he's made. He's clearly trying to set up at worst that he has lots of trade chips and some value to be able to gain capital for next year, right? But I mean, the thing is, he's got young guys. And his wide receiving core, Danny Gray, I think is going to be really good, but there's a lot to do there. He'll probably be a very up and down guy. And Julio is really a coin flip. We won't know until this season goes. So, and after that, it's really pretty dire. And then the Taysom Hill is again another thing we just don't know what it's going to look like. It could look really good. It could look like almost not very much at all. Two good D tackles, Jonathan Allen and Fletcher Cox. Those guys both start in his lineup more than likely. He's got Quinn and Derek Barnett. Barnett's kind of on his way out. He would probably even tell you so. So the DN spot, he's got some guys that'll work for him. But the only guy, he doesn't really have anyone long term, which is kind of, I don't know, for a rebuilding team, a little concerning. I'm sure once again, if anyone's going to know once he's not in it, he's going to sell these good pieces off to somebody who needs it for their defense. So I'm not too worried. How he picked up so many linebackers, I kind of felt like I needed a shower because a lot of them were off the waiver wire. I was busy after the wire happened, so I couldn't get those free agents. He picked up all of them. So he's got a lot of flyers and like guys that just made the team. They're in rotation. They're a couple injuries away from having real value. So like I don't think he has a ton of he's got Reddick and he's got Nakobe Dean, who again he's not starting, but that's a good future piece. Reddick's franchise. So those are good long-term pieces that'll be good for a while. So he has some good base stuff, but then everything else is just we'll see. And then cornerbacks, he's got guys that'll get points. He picked up some guys at safety, but that looks pretty tough that he lost Anthony Harris. It was a super strong position because I was trying to trade with him all off season when I lost all my safeties, and then it kind of diluted right now. So I don't know if Rodney McLeod's going to play 100% of snaps, and Deontay Thompson's we'll see what's going on with him. So all in all, he's just going to be really hoping that he's getting a lot of rotational points. And I just don't see where his strong positions are, where he overcompensates for that. So most of the rosters we're looking at, we're going to see at least today, you're going to see 2 or 3 positions where they're going to really make up points where you're like, okay, they don't have good safeties. Not a big deal because they have great linebackers, and et cetera. And I don't think he is strong enough at any position outside of maybe DN, but to really consistently make these points up. So he's got to have a lot go for him. All that being said, like, look, man, he just continued to be aggressive in the free agencies and everything and fill his roster with guys with upside. And he's a few injuries away, probably at some of these positions, from having some real depth. So I'm saying, as I look at it, post cuts, it's pretty bad. But if he can survive a few weeks and not be out of it, there could be a lot of upside on his roster. I don't think he's going to have a very good chance of making the playoffs. And more importantly, if he's going to know he's not going to make the playoffs, probably more as much as anyone. Like, I noticed Argo is not delusional when he needs to pivot and change up. So he'll be ready to sell his team to the highest bidder, I'm sure, by week 7 or 8 if he's not, or even if he's 0-4, he might start at that point.
I'm going to summarize a little bit. I think with him, I always I don't know where he's at, but he always has a plan in his genius brain of his. You can't count him out until he for sure he's out. To me, he doesn't have the pieces this year to compete, and he's you know nobody's going to outwork him, right? But I imagine Alvin Kamara is going to be on a different team by the end of the year. I don't think he's deep at wide receiver at all. Julio Jones, I think, actually was a great pickup and is going to be valuable this year. And then I think he's going to probably reserve some of his core linebackers and move pieces there to get draft capital or younger players for perhaps. But all in all, I think he was in a tough position to begin with. He blew it up. Tried to take some shots at things. He's gained a lot of different pieces to move. And I think at the end, by about week 5, you're going to see a lot of more transactions from Argo trying to push people out the door and create pieces for next year.
So real quick, because I know fucking Georgia is going to get all pissed off that we're being too nice. For the record, Argo, your team sucks dick.
Yeah, it's not a
Okay.
great team.
It's fucking trash.
Yeah.
All right. But you worked hard to make it a lot less trash than it was like a week ago. I'll tell you that. If we'd have done this previously, I think it would have been a lot worse. But I think he took real advantage of those waiver wires with the cap that he had. And a lot of the guys on here that have real potential upside are because of that. And I think we're going to look at that hard next year, especially with the extensions being possible, like we talked about. I think having a lot of cap is just, if you use it right and you want to be aggressive like he was, you can at least give yourself a puncher's chance, which I didn't think he had pre these waivers.
Yep. My guess is he'll have 8 to 10 players that are on his team this year, a shitload of cap going into next year with a lot of draft capital, and he'll be making some noise in the division again very, very soon. So I think that's good. Let's move on to Wayne. Oh my gosh, how do we go from Argo to Wayne? This is just like an
dream come
analyst's
true.
freaking
Let's go.
dream come true.
What a division this is.
Yeah,
Characters.
It's my favorite division for sure. Even
All
if I
right.
wasn't in it. Okay,
So,
go ahead. This is all you.
Here's why here's why it's great that I get to review Wayne's team, because everyone's gonna review Wayne's team and say it sucks ass because they think everything Wayne does is stupid and he's an idiot and he doesn't know how to play this league, all because he got himself in a bad bind before. But I'm gonna tell you what, I'm playing this fucking lineup this week and I don't know if I'm gonna win. And he's taken some hits, which makes me feel like I probably might not have if he hadn't had some things go wrong. So his running back position in theory got really bad and then kind of got good, especially for the first few weeks, where Dobbins might not be very healthy to go this week. It's looking like he's struggling in practice. So all of a sudden he's got Kenyon Drake, who might get a full workload in Baltimore, and he has Josh Jacobs, who's going to get pounded into the ground. So, and that might not work out all season. That's a scary thing come playoff time, unless Kenyon Drake really carves a role that they can't take him out of. But he's banking hard on those two. So that's the thing. He kind of like went for the strategy that he was going to wrap up that backfield and hopefully just always get points. Now it's better short term. I don't know if it's better long term. So we'll see how that goes. But for this week, I'm not super stoked to be playing those two separately now after everything. And his wide receivers, again, like he just likes guys that people don't like and he gets them fair. Even the Randall Cobb at 110 just felt gross, but now it doesn't, man. Like 110 is worth getting 4 for 65 every week, which it feels like that's probably bound to happen every fucking week, considering how this wide receiver core is going. Alan Lazard might be out, so maybe he goes even more against me this week. Again, like I said, I really hate them. I hate that this team's pretty strong based off of some injuries. And Brandon Cooks is just gonna eat. I think people didn't like that he franchise tagged him, but I was fine with it. People just underrate how much that guy scores points. Mike Evans is top tier. And then now, Olamide Zacchaeus, it might be the fucking number 1 if Jake London can't go. At worst, he's the number 2. So, like, that's a good wide receiving core. Like, those 4 guys are going to be as good as most people, most of the top of the league as far as 4 go. And, that's one of those things where I'm talking about when one position can outweigh the other. Now, if his running backs work out long term and he's got those wide receivers kicking, then like it could be a lot of points to forgive, say his tight end, where he's probably just hoping for a cheap touchdown or a couple grabs on a coin flip, right? Neither of those guys are going to get a ton of run. I think they're the direct backups too, so they're not terrible.
Yeah.
But
Well, Kittle's banged up too, so he might not even go week 1. So that might.
yeah, Tyler Croft might catch, 6 for 115 just this week because Kittle's out.
Oh,
This is just crazy.
I would take the supreme under on that, but
I'm sure. But my point is, Wayne, I feel like everything's
got a
going
chance.
Wayne's way.
yeah,
Wa-
he's
wa-
got a
against
chance.
week 1 against yours truly, So when you go to his defense, you're going to see a lot of weakness here. It's really offense top heavy. I think he's going to be tops good enough. The D ends are, actually DeMarcus Walker's probably going to get a lot of run now because they got some injuries in Tennessee. But you can see a couple FAs there. There's not going to be a lot of depth, and he's going to struggle to get points on that second DN. And then running back or linebacker, excuse me, outside of Corey Littleton, it is a real carousel. Flip a coin and hope you get some special teams tackles or an injury. I don't think a lot of these guys are even going to get rotational snaps. But, we just forgave Argo to having a chip in a chair. He just has a little less options, I think. And you have to start 3, so that's getting pretty dicey in general. Cornerback, whatever, I think he'll be fine. I think he's got a couple starters in there that'll produce points, or at least rotational corners. And then safety, he's got McKinney, which is I think he's got the green dot this year, so I think McKinney's going to be having a really big year. And so safety doesn't look. The other guys, I think, rotate. So I don't think he has a weakness of safety, so to say. And I don't know, man. I feel like he kept getting these trades and taking these guys that everyone was selling low, and somehow here we are. No, he's got no picks, right? But I don't know. Wayne is, I'm not happy I'm playing Wayne this week. Let's just put it that way. And the way everyone talks about Wayne is that you're going to play his team and pick up a free W. That wasn't the case last year, and it sure as shit ain't the case this year. And I will tell you this right now. I think he's definitely better than Argo's team.
You heard it here first. Wayne is predicted to outperform Argo. Wow, shots fired. The only thing that I think about Wayne is it's not a great short-term strategy, and I'm not sure what the long-term strategy is with no draft capital, right? So Mike Evans and Brandon Cooks will cost him about $700 next year, right? They're both kind of getting up there. That's half the cap almost. Running backs, there's no real future there. I mean, Josh Jacobs probably has something left in the tank. Drake's been bouncing around quite a bit. He's almost 30. He's going to have a little bit of capital. I guess Drake's off the transition tag next year. So it's going to be hard to rebuild a team with that much of an investment in 2 wide receivers and no draft capital if he doesn't, finish top half this year. It's a long-term outlook that looks bleak to me too. So,
but I thought he was way worse off last year, and
True.
Somehow he has this team.
Yeah,
so I don't know. He trades enough. He trades enough, and everyone thinks he's losing all these trades, but it doesn't look like it to me.
Yeah, it's just I wonder if some of these assets are tradable. Like if he does start to, is someone going to pay in a super pot year $300 for Brandon Cook or $250 for Brandon Cooks to try to win it this year, knowing that they're going to have to take that contract on for 2
Oh, you
years.
mean if he's out this year?
Yeah. Well, so like, what's the strategy moving forward? It's like, yeah, if you had some younger pieces or some cheaper assets, perhaps he could kind of pivot and get some draft capital back for next year. But this is second year in a row he has not had any draft capital. I don't see where he makes a lot of improvement. But he is very active and he surprises you every once in a while. So, like you said, he's not someone that is free meat in this league. He kind of does things a little unpredictable at times, I would say. But at the end of the day, like, he's going to compete, and he's not a free dub, like we said. So, like you said. So,
all right, Wayne, let's go.
All right, Matthew, do your thing, boy. All right, Mort, fresh meat here. So this is the first review of Morton. He's been a nice guy to interact with so far,
Nice
Jerry, in the chat. Like the activity. Keep it up, fella. So obviously he has a elite quarterback, even though wide receivers are a little bit of a question mark. He's going to score points there. 3 years remaining. Looks like he's in a good situation. Whether or not, depending on how long Rodgers lasts, he still has Love coming up there. So, strong top half quarterback. AJ Dillon, Zach Moss, two solid starting running backs, but very thin after that. So we'll see what happens with Zach Moss this year, whether or not he starts losing touches to Cook. If he plays a dominant role, Larry Roundtree's looking for another team. That's not great. So super thin. AJ Dillon could be a league winner in a lot of fantasy leagues this year if something happens to Aaron Jones. But
I
at
don't
the end of the
think. I
day,
think he could be a league winner without Aaron Jones
he
getting
could have
hurt
15
now.
touchdowns this year and 1,000 yards, and Jones could be a primarily pass catcher, and who knows how they're going to use him. But it's exciting to see. Good long term player there as well. The wide receiving core is young, and I like it. You know, to be honest with you, you got Olave and Smith as long-term assets. You got Cooper, who's got a couple more years left. Expensive, but next year should be pretty positive with him, and you know, he's going to score some points this year, even though the quarterback situation is not as good as it will be ongoing. So he has three solid wide receivers there. Johnson on injury reserve. Go ahead and move him down there. And then Matt Collins actually is getting a little bit of clock in Las Vegas. So I think he's pretty solid at wide receiver. I don't know if he has 4 or 5 starters or 4 starters every week, but good long-term assets and going to be competitive at that position. I think he's super set, to be honest with you, at the tight end position. I'm a big Cole Kmet fan, even though I am a Chicago homer. I think he's going to have an outstanding year this year. I've tried to acquire him in several leagues. I even offered more for Fryermuth, who I think are very comparable and on the same kind of career trajectory. He also has Austin Hooper. I think is going to have a solid year, and he's on a 2-year contract, so that could be someone that he's starting 2 tight ends almost every week. And then Jody Fortson had a great preseason for Kansas City. And then Farrell Brown's going to play some too. So he's got 4 solid tight ends. You might want to think about maybe moving one of those guys, maybe even Kmet or Hooper to try to solidify some other positions. And he also has Noah Brown on his taxi squad. So, or I'm sorry, Noah Gray. So pretty well suited there, long term, short term, at the tight end spot. Defensive tackle. I put that he's really talented here. You know, obviously Kenny Clark's a player, but he's really invested a lot of dollars in the defensive tackle position. So he's going to score some points, and I think that's good. But long term, I mean, we have quite a spend on the defensive tackle position, so it'll be interesting to see how that shapes up. He'll get some
but
of that
he's
money
got
back.
elite guys there, Corey. Just to like Jeffrey Simmons and Kenny Clark are going to
For
be
sure.
top 10.
Yep.
And then Jordan Davis has potential to like be the next biggest thing.
Yep.
So the good thing
So-
about that, where I agree with you, is I think he will easily, even at the contracts, especially Simmons, he can probably get it if he has another season like he did last year. He could get a ransom for him.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's always nice having 2 elite, even at any position that you know you can start. So it takes his flex. But anyways, continue.
Yeah, all I said is he can play 2, right? And then next year, maybe depending on what we do with the rosters, play 3, I believe. So he's got 2 solid ones, maybe obviously
yeah.
a third. But a lot of money invested, and he's thin at other positions. So I'm always just kind of looking at the overall makeup of a team. Not in a bad shape there though. DN, I put limited upside. Where will Lawson fit in? So obviously, we watched the Bills last night. They had you know, a lot of solid play from Espinosa, from Basham, I think was in there. I think they had.
Well, Lawson was
obviously
inactive
Rousseau. So
because he was a little banged up. So we don't know if it was he's just going to be inactive or if it was because he was hurt. So that's an
Yeah.
interesting thing to watch.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, there's some, like I said, limited upside here, but he has warm bodies that are on teams. So we'll see what happens there. Linebacker, I put solid but thin. Obviously, he has an elite linebacker in Watt. And then Kruger Hill. Let's see how he performs again this year. Pretty solid 1-2 punch there, and then he has some bodies to fill.
Yeah,
Only
Chris
what?
Board's gonna chop
Yep.
snaps with Malcolm Rodriguez, it looks like, and the other guy. So there's like 2 linebacker spots being split by 3 guys, it looks like, in Detroit. So
Yeah,
that'll be a
I think
viable
he's
play.
he's obviously solid there and in a lot better
Cashman
position
could
than.
work out. It's super up in the air there. Kenny's got Kruger Hill. So
Yep.
yeah, I'm it's not a outside of Watt, it's not super elite, but it's like he's not panicking to go grab linebackers, let's put it that way.
Yep. I don't talk about cornerbacks. He's got 5 of them. 2 of them are injured reserve. And then, so he's got warm bodies there. Safeties, he's got 2 solid ones. I think Sign, is that how you pronounce it, Ben? Sign or Scene?
Cine.
Cine. And Edwards,
Mhm.
obviously, going to be a solid safety this year. So he's got
Tavares
2.
Moore looks like he's starting too for him.
Yep. So then the third option there with Moore. So I think he's in a good spot. I don't know what he has for draft capital next year, but I think I think he's better off than both the 2 teams that we've done so far. So he's in a good spot. I think he has a lot to play with, and he just needs to expand
Yeah, he's got
the
some
running
good
back
contracts and
position.
stuff.
Yeah, get some elite defensive players.
I'll say a couple things about this roster. I do think the Amari Cooper, I mean, we'll see with Watson, but that's a tough contract as of on a franchise tag. It's going to be super expensive. So whatever, we'll see how that goes. But this is a good example. Like if Mort had any bit of the aggression that Argo had, can you just go see how much cap he has? Because I don't want to talk too out. So he's only got $12. Could have, but he has 2 corners that could have gone on IR that would have got him. Those 2 corners go on IR, he gets another $25, right? So had he been aggressive in he didn't take anyone from waivers. So
Yep.
he didn't participate in waivers, and he still hasn't demoted his IR guys. So he's recently been not very active. Had he been active, I think he could have really filled some of these spots and these holes with a little more depth. So there's a perfect example of like what Argo did to make his team much better than it was, and where Mort's kind of on the cusp of like having a competing team, and like how short he's going to be at running back. He's got to kind of make sure the rest of it's all solid and geared in. That would have been nice to see if we could have just picked up some guys while there were still some good starters and good depth pieces out there.
This league is a 365 day a year league, and there's owners that are constantly getting better, constantly through activity, getting improving their opportunities and chances. Even just interacting with other owners and developing relationships, I think is overlooked sometimes. So if you have large gaps of inactivity, you're probably losing opportunities to get better, and that's just for everyone. I personally have never really used the waiver wire effectively. I did this last waiver wire, and definitely now that I'm starting to look a little bit more whole, and keeping an eye on that, and just kind of making subtle improvements. And so a lot of opportunities for him to make some moves this year. Maybe get rid of some of those contracts and reinvest them in other spots, depending on where he's shaping up after the first 4 or 5 weeks. So, not in a bad position, Mort. Okay. Here we go. G-Dub.
Oh, there it is.
That was a surprise. Thanks for that, Georgia. All right, I'm going to read right off the script here because I did do a little bit of writing down on notes here.
Did you write as much as Georgia did for his video?
I can't confirm if that was Georgia or if that was Fleece or where.
I'm saying it's Georgia. Okay, that's fine.
We'll
keep
guys
it a
can
mystery.
make your own assessments. I put, does Daniel Jones take a leap this year? I'm gonna scream no there, but either way, he only has 1 year remaining on that contract, so they'll be in a good draft position next year if he doesn't. So kind of like where he's at there. He's not going to kill him this year, I don't think. He runs enough, and I think he'll be better than he was last year. So I like where he's at there. And then the running backs, he's super deep, right? Like I think he'll admit that he didn't hit on as many of these running backs as he thought he was going to, but it's a strategy that has paid off for him in the past. James Robinson, Elijah Mitchell, Mark Ingram's a solid play this year. He's got Snoop Comer that's on the team. You know, I think he would have been happier had Abram Smith made the team. If Kieran Williams didn't go down last night early. Jeff Wilson contract's still awful, but it's more positive this year now that he's the number 2 behind Mitchell. So he's pretty set there. I think he would obviously wish he didn't have that contract, but he has the San Francisco backfield, which is an elite backfield in my opinion. I think James Robinson is going to be solid again this year, and I think he'll surprise some people. And even if not, he's a $10 play. So that strategy of him drafting a bunch of third, fourth, fifth round running backs is solid, and he's able to invest in other areas and even take on contracts that you normally probably wouldn't because he has some cheap plays there. So you can argue with George all you want, but the strategy has paid off for him and probably will continue to do so, even if he has to move some of those free agent assets off his books. Wide receiver, I mean, he has Sutton, who is a wide receiver 1. Quez Watkins is going to be a solid producer this year. You saw Skowronek playing last night. He has Higgins, who's the number 1. Lynn Bowden, didn't he just sign somewhere? I think with the Patriots, who could be kind of a gadget guy, maybe coming out of the backfield, catch some passes.
He's a Danny Woodhead, like Rex Burkhead type, weird hybrid wide receiver. I don't know if he'll figure it out this year, but I bet you Belichick figures out how to use that guy.
He's got 2 studs. Then he's got Gage, who's going to be a contributor, and then I mean, like he's got solid options, and only one free agent on this, like 0 free agents on this list. So everybody that he has is on a roster and going to contribute, whether it be actual receiving yards or return game, gadget
all good
players.
Contracts.
What's that?
All great contracts.
All great contracts, all under $100. Sutton's even a great contract for where he's
find something to pick apart about your roster, Georgia. Just you wait.
Yeah, I think
there it is.
Yeah, tight end. He's got Gesicki and Parham. I'm actually a believer in Parham. The word on the street was he was neck and neck with Everett in Chargers camp this year until he went down with an injury. He's uber athletic. I think he's a solid number 2 tight end and could be even a tight end 1 this year if something happens to Everett.
He was drafted to replace Henry. I mean, that was the plan. He just keeps getting hurt.
Gesicki, I think, obviously kind of stock has lowered a little bit this year because of the blocking that he's expected to do and maybe not be such a huge impact in the receiving game. But bringing in other talent has to open up some opportunities for him, whether it be in the red zone or just in general. I have Smythe, and I think if they keep Gesicki, he's going to have a solid year. I wouldn't say he's going to be a top 12, top 6, 15 tight end, but he's going to score points. So I don't think he's hurting in that position as much as some of us would like to have him be hurting.
I think his best outlook is if he gets traded, because they were shopping him around, so they don't like him for the scheme, which could just be that they don't use him that much and only in certain spots. So that might devalue him. However, once again, it's possible that they end up coming off of him on a team who knows how to use him because he's got skills.
Absolutely. All right, moving on to the defense. He has 2 tackles. Obviously, he doesn't necessarily care about that position. He can start 1, and he's okay with that.
Yeah, they're both not really. I mean, Armand Watts might start for you guys. Who knows? I mean, we fucking cut him for some reason.
I think George is happy
He's
getting
good.
3 or 4 points or getting lucky there on a week-to-week basis. I'd say if I were going to pick
strong enough at other positions to take the 0 there, to be totally honest.
Absolutely. He's got Jones and Greenard at 2 solid defensive ends this year. And then he's got some depth behind them. So I think he's in a strong
Rashad Weaver is going to get a ton of run now again because, like I said,
because he got traded, right? Yeah.
Well, no, they had a bunch of injuries. They had some guys go out for this year. I'm blanking on who, but
Oh, that's good to know. I wasn't even aware of that.
Yeah.
So that's good knowledge that I even I don't know. I'm obviously
Yeah, their best outside linebacker went out. Landry. Landry went out for the year. And they have another one who's on the short IR, maybe longer. So anyways, on the D line, I think. So yeah, they're like that Tennessee situation, incredible coaching and a coach who knows how to get the maximum out of the defense. So there's going to be some interesting names popping up there that maybe we hadn't thought of that we're going to score as many points.
super solid linebacker. I mean, I've reviewed what I think 12 teams now. I don't know of anybody other than maybe
It's gross.
mighty orphans that I would rather have the core linebackers at. I mean, the top three there: Kendricks, David, and Bosa. Wow, anybody that had one of those guys would be super happy. Then he has Ujulari, and then the rookie Malone there. So I think with that position alone, with his running backs and his wide receivers, he's light years ahead of most teams. And then he has three strong safeties that he can play as well. So I just think that top to bottom, Georgia is a solid team. It's well constructed. There's not a lot of gaps. If there are gaps, he's filling them with other positional assets where he's super strong in. Georgia knows the game. To me, he's my favorite right now to win the division. That being said, I wouldn't be surprised old Sal gave him a little run for his money this week in week one. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think again, it'll come down to, does Elijah Mitchell ascend? How does James Robinson look? His wide receivers staying healthy, but I think he's solid there. His linebacker.
I think on defense, he's just got to avoid injury. He's not super deep. He just has real top heavy guys,
Yep.
Ojolari's already kind of hurt, so he's not getting a flex out of the linebacker position for probably a week or two. I think he's going to be out for a week or two. So, but again, man, like, we're splitting hairs. We're just trying to find weakness where on a team that has very few.
The only
So
weakness
congratulations.
of this team is
Congratulations, Fleece. I mean, Georgia.
The only weakness of this team is actually the owner's personality, and that's pretty much it. It's kind of like a Daniel Snyder.
His
kind of
chat
situation.
skills, his message boards or his chat board skills. Although
I
that's what
invite
makes the league so
everybody
entertaining.
to get to know Georgia outside of the chat a little bit. He's actually somewhat.
I don't take his chat
pleasant
personal.
guy
I like it.
to interact with and a decent human.
Georgia, keep talking about
He's a
roster
character.
spots. We do need more. We
He's
need
one
more
of the-
roster spots.
He's one of the
Georgia,
characters. He's one of the characters.
bang it into
of
the
league.
ground another 2 months.
All right, those are my first two, and then we're going to move on to you, Ben. You got the Mandalorian and myself to do. Which one do you want to tackle first?
Give me the Mandy Bandy.
All right. Moving along here. I hope everybody's staying with us. I know this is going to be a long one. Feel free to take breaks. Hydrate. It's 115 here today in Livermore, so
we might chop this up into 3 videos too. We might have to.
I don't know how to
we'll
do
get
that editing, so yeah.
Well, we don't have to edit. We just stop the video, make a new video.
Let's just keep streaming ahead here, buddy. Try to do our best. I got a long weekend with a buddy coming into town. I'm going to be doing some mushrooming, a little psilocybin action. So I don't know how I'll be, feeling if we had to poke one of these out later on. So I want to bang them out.
No,
Let's do it. I love.
Hold on, let me explain what I'm talking about, dude.
Oh.
Break it up for our audience so they don't have to commit to 2.5 hours. You just
they can
push
always
stop and then we push play again.
Okay, but they can also just.
We also have a guest. If you read your text, I just sent you. We have a guest who wants to come on for the next division, so it'd be nice to break it up. So we'll get into that. But let's get into this because it's Mandy's time. Sorry, Mandy, I wasn't giving you proper glory because you know what? As good as Georgia Warhorse's team is, I don't think anybody wants to fuck with you. I'm going to say that right now.
Oh yeah, I'm getting turned on by the top the offense here. Really.
Yeah, Najee Harris and DeAndre Swift are as good as a 1-2 punch combos you're going to see in this whole league, and locked up long term and cheap. I got a boner already. Gamewell and Zamir Smith. I mean,
Zamir White.
They're going to get run. Zamir White, sorry, they're going to get some serious run. White could get. I mean, he could be a real elite back by next year. based on what the
Sexy,
tea
sexy,
leaves are saying.
sexy.
He's got JJ. My background here. There, right, yep, JJ. Look at that catch. Justin Jefferson, and kind of missed on Marshall, but still the jury's out. Lockett, tough situation, but he's going to get points. I'm sure most people would rather have him, but probably at that salary is probably the only thing tough. That's going to be a tough. You're just gonna have to take that salary for the next 2
Jesus
years. I don't see
Christ.
anybody
By
taking
far
it.
the best
Well,
team. By far the best
yeah.
team.
Yes, it's pretty damn good. So you have Gallup, who's going to be back soon. Peoples Jones is going to make some noise. It's just there's depth, even though it's not a lot, enough to not worry about getting starters, even with injuries. And then he's got Mark Andrews just casually sitting there. Kylan Granson is going to get opportunity at least this year to see if he's a guy, because the guy that was looking the best got hurt, and Samuel
Just
Riley Cox.
real quick, there is 5 wide receivers out of his 6 that arguably are the 1 or 2 on their team.
Terrence Marshall isn't the 1 or 2. He's the 3, if
Yeah.
that.
I'm
They just
saying
traded for Chenault.
arguably, right? Like, let's see how the season progresses. You really believe Robbie Anderson is a long-term guy there? I'm just saying, like, it's a pretty fucking
Long-term.
solid receiving core
Terrence Marshall's a bust right now.
right now.
He's bad. He's been bad. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Jury's out.
Right now,
I'm not
Better
gonna give him
quarterback play
number
this
2.
year. I'm
They
optimistic.
just traded for Chenault.
If anybody
too.
wants to move their Terrace Marshall shares, let me know.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, and then randomly just, oh, who's that? Aaron Donald. Okay, hey Randy, what? The double? Where? Okay, he's got
Oh, yeah.
Donald locked up. The best D tackle in the game. Had a slow night and got him 10.2 points. Defensive end is going to be a weakness. However, that being said, he's going to get probably points out of outside of buys unless some of these guys get picked up. He has some trades to make if he wants to. Like, he can totally get some depth based on his other pieces. So, and then linebacker, looks like Zach Bond's going to get right in there. Devondre Campbell's a fucking beast. David Mayo might rotate. Denzel Perryman is going to smash like he did last year. Josh Allen, albeit a D end, outside linebacker, should be a D end. He should be a D end, and then we wouldn't even have to say anything except his D end group was fucking beastly. Next year, maybe. So, like, again, okay, cool. All starters that are no problem. I'm not even thinking about it. He might have to actually decide on which starter he was going to play on defense in linebacker. That's a hell of a luxury. I wish I had that. All right. And then super deep without spending a ton of money at cornerback. I know you don't like talking about it, but that's like, he's got a lot of guys that are going to score a lot of points. And then safety, that's where I think it drops pretty hard. He's playing a real roulette game with the guys there. Javon Holland will be fine as a beast, I think. But
Hey
it's,
Mandy, come
again,
get your boy.
if there's-
Buddha,
yeah,
get
if
your boy
there's-
Buddha
if-
Baker, baby. Come get Buddha Baker and solidify this right here, and right
he's only
now.
got 62 cents a cap, Corey. So I
Well,
don't think that's
we'll work
coming on
something
the
out.
horizon.
I got 80
Alright,
bucks
well.
I can send his way. Or
So I'm just saying, as much as I just really like Georgia's roster, he's not this top heavy. I mean, I don't think this deep with top heavy guys. So I think it's a real close race between Mandy and Georgia at the top of this. And I think I'm going to tip my hat to Mandy, man. I just like this team too much.
yeah, I think it's going to be an offense versus defensive battle, really. Like if you look at it, and I think I would take the offense and the points there every time versus the defense that Georgia has. I like this team. I like it a lot. He's going to score so many points in the top half of this offensive juggernaut that I think he can get away with a lot. And then he's going to find points throughout the season, make some deals, and score points on defense too. So,
But we're splitting hairs. His defense is still good.
for sure.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
You know, we're just trying to find weakness, and like usually it's not hard to find somebody's weakness in blue chip, and he's got that good of a team.
Well, speaking of weaknesses, we can go to my team now, Ben, and you can let me
Yes.
have it.
Yes.
It'll be fun. Just remember, I get you next. So, um, all good stuff
That's
here.
fine.
Second year in the league, boys. Took on a real shithole. So just keep that in mind.
We don't need the disclaimers, Corey. You're fine. Don't worry. So I'm going to go on record and say Corey is proved to everyone that 2 first-round picks for Gabe Davis was a steal. A fucking steal. Now, granted, somebody wrote in the chat that was a win-win because Penn State used those picks to get some really good players. But that contract on Gabe Davis, the only thing he would have to worry about is possibly next year, Gabe Davis being in the top 10 and having a holdout issue. That's it. Not this year, because he's on the new contract. And I tell you what, Gabe Davis, maybe pound for pound, might be one of the best contracts in this league. Congratulations, Corey. That's
Thanks,
the last
buddy.
nice thing I'm going to say to you on this entire pod. Maybe not. I actually like some stuff on your team, so it's not gonna be that bad. Chicago Bears, like I'll just, use this to put a dig on the Bears. I think they don't give a fuck about Justin Fields like they should. They're not trying to protect him. They're not trying to give a scheme, not trying to give. I think they're just gonna let him die and recycle to some standard quarterback. I don't know what management's doing. I would have loved that long term with Justin Fields, especially with his mobility. But I don't know what the fuck the Bears are doing. And maybe they'll just fool us all, hope he gets through and okay, like next year we're going to get you an offensive line, next year we'll get you wide receivers. But they might just, you got to be careful with rookie quarterbacks. You can't just give them 3 years of shit and hope they still survive, and so I don't know. That's all I'm going to say about Justin Fields and his long-term outlook. It just doesn't look like they care about him, and that's a travesty. I think he could be good, and they're not giving him a time of day to grow. Anyways, on to the running backs. You and I talked a bunch about Khalil Herbert. I think he starts by week 8. I think Montgomery, especially how weird this team is being run, specifically, they're going to run a scheme and not deviate from that scheme. And it's been very clear that Montgomery is not fitting well with that scheme, and Herbert does. So I don't know if that they are just going to clean house. Like it seems like a lot of these GMs like cleaning house from the previous regime, and Herbert was from the previous regime. But I think Herbert's a good long-term blue chip. Yeah, I mean, it's a great contract running back with a hell of a lot of upside. So it's potential. We're sitting here calling that another one of the best contracts in the league next year. On extension sitting around $20. You're going to be set for a long time. Ernest Johnson, I might not have liked it at the time, but it looks like with the Kareem Hunt situation, you're kind of banking on a correct thing. They're going to move on next year, almost moved on this year. So that was a pretty good contract. P. Ryan, it's a filler, no comment. I mean, he'll get you points in a bind, and I'm not big on Brightwell personally, but I think you could have done a lot worse with this running back room, especially for the future. It looks like Johnson and Khalil Herbert as a base for your next year, if it doesn't work out this year, are going to be pretty nice starts. On to your wide receivers, where $450 blew the panties off the auction and the minds of some humans who just got into this league. But I will tell you, I've brought this up, I don't know if on this pod or if we were talking about it, but Bobby Wagner, when he went for $180, was the craziest shit ever until he got franchised. And you realize now Bobby Wagner is on somebody's fucking roster for free, which is the same thing that's going to happen with Devontae Adams. He's going to go from 450 to like 225 in a franchise tag. And as long as he's got everything in the juice, it's going to look pretty good. So I can tell for sure this roster is playing for next year and not for this year. I think you can make some noise this year, and you can get hot. And like I said, a lot of this can work out, but this is a real nice roster set up for the future, which was your plan from the beginning. And so on we go. Gabe Davis, I don't have to say anything. I already said it. Braxton Berrios, I don't want to get into Braxton Berrios because of how much you talk about Braxton Berrios. Makes me not want to talk about him. So that's all I'm going to say. Romeo Dobbs.
Only 150 points this year more from Braxton Berrios.
We're going to find out Sunday if Romeo Dobbs is all the hype, because if Lazard's not playing, I would expect him to really get some opportunity. And so that could end up being like another home run. Did you activate him or did you draft
Yeah,
him?
I first and a second, expected late.
So again, that's a very expensive, tough thing that a lot of people aren't willing to do, but you paid a first and a second for a Gabe Davis like prospect, so to say. Probably
Very
could look
similar.
back on that and say it was not as good if it doesn't work out, but I think for the potential upside and that wide receiver room, that was a good play on your part. That's about all I'm going to say about the rest of the room. David Bell could be good. You know, it's just tough to gauge these things. Long term is great because he'll have Watson next year, but it's tough to know this year while he has shitty quarterback play. If he didn't do well for 8 weeks, I wouldn't write him off. That's all my point is. I just wait till for you get a good quarterback that can sling the rock like Watson, and then we'll assess next year more than likely, or maybe it'll shine at the end of the year. But okay. Pat Firemuth, another one of the gems you got last year. Congratulations. You know, if he gets hurt, it's going to be a tough spot for you, but that's a hell of a starter to never think about your tight end for many years to come. And on to the defense. You know, the D tackles varied enough that you're going to find points out of those positions. It's going to be a little guessing game probably, but you know, it's good to have guessing options than to have no options. Espinoza, I thought was getting buried in that depth chart. I really thought the end was going to be a real problem for you, but it looks like there's enough room to go around with play time and snaps. He was getting tons of run on there despite their depth. And then Gibson's a beast. So not a bad result at DN that I probably would have talked a little shit on 2 days ago, Corey. So congratulations on that. And linebackers, you know, there's not a lot you got set up long term for yourself. I think if you went next year and did the strategy that Jason Bauer or the Orphans team did, which was just take a ton of middle linebackers early, I think that would do wonders for this team because you need to get something going, I would say, than a lot of these fill-ins who are just
just quickly
real
there
in the
though.
air.
Just remember that I did take Dean this last year, and I traded him for a first and Justin Ross, and that first
Yeah.
happened to be John Candy's first. So if I move that Dean pick that was like 27th, I think overall, to a top 10 pick next year, I'm happy with that. So.
Well, it ended up being a bad trade for you with the Justin Ross injury, which now has high potential. Yes, so there's some sunshine on the on the farm of manure.
Also, the Brian Robinson injury made me a little thinner at running back than I would have been.
Well, Brian Robinson was going to make you have an elite running back room long term. It still does. He's on that short term IR, so we might be talking about it differently when that comes around. But that was clear. Like, I think you and I were probably higher than anyone else on Robinson. Just I liked his Bama pedigree and watching him. He was just so fucking good. And everyone was just afraid of a shitty team with a lot of guys there. But I remember, they have one of the best offensive lines. Okay. And I remember a team that did the same thing that people got really gun shy about, and his name was Jonathan Taylor. And so when they're like, well, they have Williams and they have Hines, it's like, I don't know. I'm not going to take Jonathan Taylor first. And that was a mistake because, you know, the best player rises to the top, and it was looking, at least in the summer, that's Brian Robinson. So moving on.
I'd also just on the linebacker spot, I want to point out that rule of not being able to extend auction players was, I mean, something that I would have probably liked to have changed, right? Like if I would have known that, maybe add a couple of these guys like Sanborn for specifically. I tried to do it. I think I was 20 minutes late, and it was not accepted, which is a whole nother story. I think if we're going to have rules like that, then there's no exceptions ever, as opposed to picking and choosing when we make exceptions. But I'm gonna let that go. So yeah, I think I need to get better. I also like Rodney Thomas. I think he could be a solid kind of switchblade back there for the Colts for a long time. So anyway, I think I know where I need to spend my auction dollars next year, which I should have a shitload because I'm you know, other than Adams, a lot of this is going to fall off the books again this year, and I have cheap contracts, nothing over really $25 anywhere else. So I'm pretty happy where I'm at on my build.
Yeah, and I think, this linebacking room, if I can just be totally honest, is probably what's gonna keep you from competing this year. Unless you have some guys really um fall into some favorable situations, but it doesn't look like you have much as far as starting power.
Yeah.
And it comes some guys in some depth spots, but it's a weakness, and some positions you got to get lucky. Linebacker's tough when you got to start three and you have buys, and usually and then we're dealing with flexes and stuff. So for you, when I look at what's the glaring issue for your team as far as having success this year, I think it probably starts at that position. And
sure.
I think everywhere else, again, like you have some depth and some guys. Hey, Dane Jackson got you 12-8, bud. 8-5. That's good. That just goes to show, like in these cornerback situations. I think I picked up a Bears starting cornerback on these last waivers. That the guy that won the job at the number 2 spot. So I think, and those are the guys that are the best, because of the unproven guys. They may get benched, but as long as they're going to get thrown at, they get a lot of tackles and stuff like that. So I saw some chatter discussion about getting rid of cornerbacks. That's ridiculous. Just stop paying for the best guy. That's the solution. The best cornerbacks don't score points. Don't pay for them. There you go. All right, Corey. And then, I think you have a habit, which is a good habit, because you draft guys you like, but you usually activate guys early. However, so your taxi squad may not be full of gold and beauty, but that's because you activated everyone you liked. And yeah. All
Oh
in
yeah,
all,
my
Corey,
taxi squad's all they're
your
all drafted.
roster is really coming along. And next year it's going to be a problem. It'll be a problem this year some weeks, but again, like I think next year, as long as you address some of the weaknesses in some positions, you're going to be a handful.
Yeah, most of these taxi squad guys were draft picks. Seth Williams was a bust. I mean, I missed on him, and I think I took him 218. Oh yeah, it does say it right there. So disappointed there. Other than that, I don't think I've had a lot of miss draft picks, which is something that I take pride in. So even if I'm going after people a little bit earlier than expected, like you get the guys you want, and I need to get a better knowledge of players on defense and scour that market a little bit better. But I have young talent. I'm where I want to be. Short, cheap contracts for players that are playing and have upside. And I think my offense is the top half of the league, to be perfectly honest with you, not only now, but in the future. So I would go into debate about what I feel about Justin Fields quickly as well. I do think that they believe in him long term. I think he's going to have an outstanding year given the situation that he's in and take a giant leap forward. So I'm not with you on the Fields thing. I think he's a stud, and I think they're going to have a shitload of money to invest not only in the offensive line but bringing in wide receivers next year. They'll probably move Roquan at some point and get more draft capital for him. So I think the Bears team, not unlike my team, will look a lot different next year and is got some pieces there that are going to be long-term assets, and they will be competitive in the shortcoming, not necessarily too far distant future. So. That's all I'm going to say about that. Now I got to go right to you. I think I'll skip Highland. I'll just go right to you. Like let's trade a little fire here. I have done nothing to review your roster. The one thing that I will say about Ben is that I think he understands the defensive side of football better than 95%, if not everybody in this league. He's constantly finding players that. Nobody knows about well in advance of them becoming starters in this league and then potential studs. So kudos to you for that. He's not bad on offense either. So Jacksonville quarterback, I think this was a strategy for you. Like you took a shot on them early, knowing that they were probably going to have the Lawrence sweepstakes, and so far, didn't pay off much last year. $1.73 contract. I think he's going to take a huge step forward like Fields this year. So I think you're good there. And whether or not what you do with that moving forward, we'll see. Mike Boone's
real quick comment.
Right away, we're going to interject here. Well, see, I waited till almost all the way through the fucking analysis, and you're going to interject right away. But go ahead.
Because you said something incorrect. You're going to see what I'm going to do with him next year. I didn't extend him.
Oh,
so I didn't see enough. I didn't see enough from Lawrence, and I was nervous about the long term. So I only have him this year. I might use the same strategy next year. That's all I was going to correct.
So you can go back
did
and get
have
him
to
for
make
a
that
little bit more
decision.
expensive next year and just start the contract over. Is that the thought?
I just like the dollar quarterback strategy.
Okay. Hey, shit. Fucking, that's great. I mean, you want to trade him right now for Fields? I'm just kidding. Not going to do that.
Maybe.
Not going to do that. I mean, the running back room. I mean, fucking Fournette and Aaron Jones, solid 1-2 punch, both on 1-year contracts. Canned tag them. I think he's solid. Fat Lenny's going to have a big season if he stays healthy. I think he's solid there. And then what a surprise, Jalen Warren being the number 2. If anything happens to Najee Harris, that's a fucking huge win. I think you're probably a little disappointed that Zakondre White didn't get picked up. But, oh, look who we have here, Jordan Mason. Just another fucking guy that has a chance that made a team and pushed Trey Sermon aside. And we all know how.
Hold on, let me use my French accent. 5th and 6th round picks are bullshit.
Do we need to add any invites to anybody? I know that I'm a little bit. Are we waiting for the next division for that?
I think so. I mean,
Okay.
Roman might jump on.
I
if we
think
want, but
we had Georgia W saying that he wouldn't mind jumping on too. So shit.
let's get out of this division so we don't have to hear them squawk about this division, and then they won't
Okay.
know what we said about it. They won't hear any of our opinions, and then that way they come on thinking we're,
Okay.
we won't even tell them what happened.
Got it. Yes, I mean, let's be honest here. If we're comparing to what Georgia has done with his fucking Flyers versus what Ben has, Ben's got a higher hit ratio this year than Georgia. So I don't know. Good on you, Ben. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So
I'll take
I think you got points coming. At that position for sure in your starters, and you got some live bodies. Boone as well as, I mean, if something happens to Gordon, he's the number 2, right? So it's like solid at running back with 2 superstars. So great job.
White's on the practice squad too, with a very weird room. So we'll see what happens with that.
Continuing that theme with 2 superstars at wide receiver, he's got Stephon Diggs and Pittman. Obviously, a solid 1-2 punch. Washington made the team over top of my boy Seth Williams, so gonna get some clock there. Josh Palmer, by all people's opinion, from what I understand, is going to ascend this year and be the either 3rd or 2nd option, depending on injuries and opportunity. With the Chargers, great draft pick there. And then he's got Aguilar, who, I don't know, I think you'd be happy if you lost that contract at some point, but still a live body that could score some points this year. We'll see how that all shapes up.
He starts, bro.
Yeah, I mean, for $54, he's no Braxton Berrios, but I think you could be worse there. Yeah. So I mean, solid wide receiver core as well. So I mean, you have not only superstar status, but then live bodies that are going to score points all across the board. So you got to be happy with those 2 positions. Tight end, you tell me, bud. Would you like to improve the tight end position? It's a problem. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll
you got a lot of
defend
them.
it.
You got a lot of tight ends.
I didn't before. I picked up these guys off the waiver wire.
Okay.
So Firsker was a real shocker to me. That guy getting cut was just like, wow. And that was like the guy I was starting with Swaim as my backup, and it was a bad situation. Now it turned into a pretty fucked situation. However, the guys I picked up are the number 2s of the team. So the Parker Hesse is the backup to Pitts, or the second guy in 2 tight end sets. So he's actually who I thought Fish First was going to be. So in a weird way, if he puts up any points, then I'm just getting what I hope to get out of Firsker. But it's bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a dead position, but it's not great, and you don't have a ton of. I mean, Firsker is not a good contract looking forward, but I mean, you got to take your shots, right? And you're strong enough everywhere else where if you get any points at all on offense out of your tight end, you're in good shape. If you want Smythe, let me know, because he could actually be the best tight end on your roster.
Yep.
Happy to make a deal to move him. So I'm not going to pick apart the master on defense. You know more about your defense than I do. I think you're solid as fuck. You got 4 defensive tackles that are all going to play and score you points. You can play two this year, but you're probably not going to have to because you got solid defensive end play with Sweat, Watt, and Chandler Jones. And then I don't know anything about this Sezzy, but if you got him on your team and he's a Vikings rookie, I'm sure you're okay with that pick already. He made the team too. I mean, 6th-round draft
I'll
pick.
give you a quick narrative on that, Corey, and this
Sure.
is like something that we've talked about, and I think it's like, I didn't really like taking guys who get taken that late in the draft as flyers for where you usually have to take them, but because we're so deep, it went down. But again, when a regime change happens from the GM to the coach, you just have to assume they're trying to clean house to keep their guys. So a guy like that who got taken late at a DN, he just had to not suck. If it was a coin flip tiebreaker, which it ended up being with a lot of other guys, they're off because that's the old shit and we want our new shit. So I think the Bears, we saw a lot of that too, man. Like, I think that's some good advice. I probably am giving too much away to other owners, man. Pay attention when a GM and an owner is taken because you get a lot of surprise cuts, right? I mean, Watt's getting cut was mind blowing. And then you get a lot of the rookies, the rookie capital almost holds more, like a 6th and 7th round pick, and even a 5th round pick, like we saw with
They're
Naylor.
drafting
in
a
the big
scheme
room.
guy that they like to come fill a role.
It's
and
just
give him
like
a
it's our
shot.
guy, man. Like, we just drafted him, and we want to give our guys a chance before we're giving some GM and coach we just replaced there. So, anyways, I think that's a good thing
perfect.
to like try and exploit.
A perfect example is Malcolm Rodriguez. I
Yeah.
mean, like a 4th-round draft pick came in is obviously I think starting at this point. It's a hit, and that strategy kind of is evident because that was a regime change. Like they're kind of letting some of the higher draft capital go, and they gave this kid every chance. He performed, and he's gonna have a fucking good year, or at least it looks like it. Now I don't know if
Yeah.
he's.
I needed it too. My
Yeah.
linebacker room was looking almost as bad as yours.
Yeah. I mean, Morrow actually is going to get some clock in Chicago too. So.
Morrow's he's got the green dot, man. They're not giving it back to Roquan.
Yeah,
He's playing 100% snaps.
I think he's going to be solid. Rodrigo's going to be.
He's
solid.
going to carry it, and if Rodriguez gets a starter at middle, those 2 guys will carry the rest. Everyone else are just rotational pieces.
But you have 7 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 live bodies that if something happens, you guys moving up a couple spots, you're going to be able to score some points there. Not going to talk about.
It's a weakness, but it's not devastating. It's not as bad as my tight end room. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're saying the 2 weak spots here, it's the tight end and the linebacker room, but
Depth
neither
of
one of them are as
linebacker.
bad as Argos and I'm sorry, just kidding.
Actually, we'll get
yeah.
to safety. It's pretty bad too. But
yeah, safety's not great
I don't
either,
know
which
what
is surprising because I think of you as kind of a safety guy, right? Like I think that you find that talent. I would like to see a Cine on your team or something like that. Someone, but I got a
Why? He
couple
was
safeties.
overdrafted.
Come and get that Buda Baker if you want to really make a run this year. We can figure something out. Maybe a Smythe and Buda Baker for $100. We'll figure out where we make the swap. Maybe
How
get
about
you-
Marquise Bell that I got in the auction as a rookie? That's the undrafted rookie you're talking about, dog.
Right.
And I had Smoke Monday, who was looking like he was going to be like number 3 until he fucking tore his ACL. Anyways, I
Very
did
nice.
what I do, Corey. I got my 2 safeties that I really thought had upside.
You're a solid manager in all leagues, buddy. Not a winner, but someone that is always going to compete.
Fair enough.
I'm just mostly speaking about our home league there, but we'll spare the people the details on that. So I think you're, right up there with me as far as the division's concerned. I think you're better at running back, and we're equal at wide receiver. You're a hell of a lot better on defense and a lot deeper. So I give you the nod of being in the top half of the division. So there you go, buddy.
I'm definitely not at the top, but I'll take the top half.
Yeah, top half for sure. We're not on the Mandy level yet, but I think you're as equally as capable of winning as Georgia. To be perfectly honest with you. All right, we're almost through the first division, and then I think I understand we can take a pause with the recording, let that one download, and then we'll do part two. Maybe get some other guests on here. So we're gonna finish strong here with
Highland there. That's you,
Highland,
Corey.
buddy. All right, last one. We'll tag team this one. Patriots, solid. 1 year remaining. We'll see what he does there. Obviously, not going to probably franchise tag him. I don't know if Mac Jones is going to have as good of a year last year as he did this year, to be perfectly honest with you. I think he might be just that guy. I mean, that might be who he is. He might be kind of like a Kirk Cousins that's always just kind of, humming through life and doing okay, but he's never going to be a top tier guy, in my opinion. Cam Akers, wow, that had to be a fucking brutal start for old Harley last night. If he was watching, I just it doesn't look good. He's had the whole offseason. He played in the playoffs last year. I know he was a little banged up, but Henderson looked better in my opinion when he was in there. But there's a long season and it can rebound. But $86 wrapped up in him this year. Going to be expensive moving forward if he's reserved 7 touches a game. So both those guys get banged up a lot though too, and they're going to run the football. So we'll see what happens. He's not down and out, but a bad start there. Kareem Hunt, I think he's better off if he's moved on from Cleveland after this year. Doesn't get a contract. He's a starting running back in this league. I think he's a stud. So solid there. See what happens with him long term. He's going to score points this year as well.
He's going to have to get a transition or a franchise tag on him, so it's going to get a little pricey
for sure
on the Kareem Hunt.
Not Jeff Wilson pricey though. So yeah. So David Montgomery, listen, man, he's in the 5th year of his contract. They didn't sign it. I don't know what he's going to be in Chicago. My guess is he's gone next year and they ride Herbert. So he's a good running back. I think yards after contact, David Montgomery is solid. I think, like you mentioned, it's a little bit of a scheme thing. He's going to have a good year. I don't think he's going to be poo-pooed this year. I think it's more of a 60-40 timeshare between him and Herbert. If he stays healthy, they're going to run the football. I imagine there's going to be 25 touches a game between the running backs, maybe 27. And so I think he's going to be a solid RB2 this year. I'm not as down on him as you are, Ben. And I think he's a good running back.
Yeah, fair enough.
I really do. Yeah. Odell's super fucking expensive for not having a team. Tutu Atwell looked like a jag yesterday, in my opinion. Zay Jones could actually be one of the standout players of the auction this year. The reports in Jacksonville as he was the best receiver in camp. Lazard contract's great at $14. Drake London, I'm a huge fan. And then he's got Valdez Scantling that could be an absolute steal at $14 with our boy Mahomes throwing to him. So I like his wide receiving core. He needs Odell to sign desperately with someone, and that'll probably happen.
The Rams?
Yeah, with the Rams,
the Rams
at this point, which would be good. Who knows? But that's a tough franchise tag that he placed on. I think I traded Odell to Harley last year too. So he was only on a 1-year contract and chose to franchise tag him, which I thought was questionable to begin with. But other than that, I mean, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 and a 4.5 there at the wide receiver core, and his 4 are not superstars yet. Drake London could be, but he's got 4 reliable guys that he can play. And Zay Jones, watch out for him this year. He could be a 150, 170 point scorer.
A lot of unknown at a wide receiver position, but just so much upside with how, like, again, you said Zay Jones and Scantling, if they end up being like 1 or 2 in some big throwing offenses, like, and then London, we know his ceiling, right?
Yeah, and I'm also going to tell you, I don't believe that Allen Lazard's ever going to be a number 1. So whatever they're saying this year is just kind of locker room talk, if you ask me. I don't think he has those skills.
But
he might be a red zone guy and he might produce, but I don't see him as a 7 for 85, type guy every week. I just don't think he has that skill set. I think of him more as a possession receiver and end zone guy. But Rodgers trusts him, and that can be all that it takes. So anyway, I wouldn't be counting on Allen Lazard to have a top.
We know nothing about Green Bay until Aaron
we
Rodgers
know-
throws for 400 on the Vikings this weekend, and we see who catches up the 400.
I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to win the division, and they're going to handle Green Bay in Week 1. If that makes you.
Woof! I like you. You got way more confidence than I do. I love that, Corey.
Yep. I like Tyler Higbee. I think he's going to have a bounce back year. I was kind of, I have him in a couple other leagues, Yahoo leagues, whatever. But I don't think he's that far from being a top 12 tight end. He had 11 targets yesterday. He looked kind of shitty when he had him. But
He's getting
from what I
Odell's
watched-
target show.
From what I watched, it's like fuck. That's Cup and Higbee, and that's about it. Like they're gonna have to find somebody else, whether that be Van Jefferson or a free agent or Beckham coming, because if not, those two are gonna see freaking over 50%, 70% of the targets. So I like it there. Other than that, I don't. Whatever, it is what it is. At least he's got a starter. Defense, tackles, he's got 2. Both guys are Kinlaw's actually going to be
Kinlaw's
somewhat
good.
decent this year. I don't know who
Yeah.
Brandon Williams is. He's a free agent, so that's
He's
not
a
good.
free agent, so it's
Yeah.
Kinlaw or bust.
Looking like he's starting Kinlaw every game, unless he has a bye. He's got the Bosha man, and is that it? I don't really see much else there at DN, Ben.
Well,
unless
Chris
I'm wrong.
Wormley was really good last year, but they got Open Jovi. They signed to a contract, so Hill's going to take probably that spot. But he could be a good rotation guy, just like your boy on Buffalo, Corey.
Espinosa.
Espinosa, yeah.
Yep.
So that's probably who he's starting as the second one.
I like his linebacker group. He's got Devin Bush, although I hear that he's kind of, I don't know, his stock is going down a little bit. He was splitting reps, I think, in Pittsburgh with fucking, who was it? I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I'll think of it. So, I mean,
It's not
still a
looking
solid, huh?
It's not looking good for the pedigree he was supposed to be.
That's I'll pick 115 overall. Yeah, I would say that he probably would like to have that one back at this point, but he's,
Yeah.
I mean, he's a 120 point scorer minimum this year, I think. So
Oh
it's
yeah,
still,
yeah.
yeah, I mean,
he's gonna get some tackles. He's just not, he was supposed to be top 10 potential linebacker, and he's just not really. And
He's
he's
got-
like having coverage problems, so there's like it's a chance this year. I wouldn't be shocked if he's like a 60% snap guy.
right. That's
Which
what I
sucks.
was hearing as well. Kazir White,
Because
absolute
White's
stud,
gonna be fucking good.
and
Yeah.
Jason Owa, I'm super high on. So I think he's solid there. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 live bodies, three real startable players, and some upside. So I think he's solid at linebacker. And then he's got my boy Brisker in Chicago. Fucking A, man. I think that kid's gonna just be a stud. Super excited about
He
that.
can be a
He's got
top 10 fantasy safety this
I
year.
would try to
year.
acquire him.
He can put. He won't be. He won't do what Derman James did, but he can get. He can get frisky.
He's also got Ebner, Treston. So hey,
Oh, yeah.
Harley, come at me, man. Come at me if you want to make some moves here. I'd like to get that boy on my team. Let me know.
Yeah, tough to send a 1 and a 2 for that one, Corey.
Yeah, I'm not going to activate him. Like I'm gonna be a little bit more cautious on that, but I wouldn't mind making a deal. And I would probably pay a lot for Brisker. You want to send me Brisker? Let me know. He's solid at safety.
too.
He's got Hooker. He's got Brisker. He's got Poirier, who had a pick last night. I think he's in a good spot from safety position.
I know you don't like talking cornerbacks, Corey, but you do have to mention that he has Trevon Diggs on his team.
Absolutely. I
Okay,
should be
and
talking
like-
about quarterbacks. I'm just being lazy. They're. I mean, you can
Yeah.
score 10, 12 points from a quarterback position, and if you can start 3 now, I think people are starting to take a little bit more notice on the quarterback position. I know I did as well. So we should.
I
be
think
talking
he'll have
about
a regression, but like, what if he's 30% less? He's still a fucking animal.
Is he
you
a
know.
good cornerback though? I mean, is he an elite quarterback?
People,
or
man,
is he-
people
or
used
is
to
he
say
a
that about
turnover
Deion
machine?
Sanders.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying. We're
He
not going to
takes
get
lots
into
of
it.
risks and he gets lots of reward.
I think if I was being honest, I'd say Harley's in a lot of a similar position, slightly better than me, honestly. So I would pick him. If there's 8 teams, I think he's hovering between that 4, 5, and 6 spot. So that's my.
You got me 3? Who's 3?
So I have Mandy number 1, Georgia number 2. I'm gonna ride you number 3 because of your star
Ooh.
power, and then I would probably go. Oh gosh, I don't know. I'm not going to break down all of them because it's
That's fine. We don't have to.
yeah.
We're running
I
out
mean,
of-
it's not
we gotta
Wayne
get
number
these things
4,
moving
so
anyway.
it's Harley number 4. I'm going to go me number 5. I'm going to go Wayne number 6. I'm going to go Mort number 7. I'm going to have our boy Argo riding the fucking pine in number 8.
Right in the fucking pine.
Sorry,
Hey, you know what, Argo?
Sorry.
Argo? I'm sorry. This is a mistake I'm gonna regret later because you're active enough to make this not happen, and you might not tank or be in last place just because Corey and I both have finally agreed on something. But I think you're gonna be in the last place, my man, and it's a bummer for how, but it's a strong division, and that's part of the reason why he chose this strategy to go on a rebuild. Because
Is
let's
he
be
in or is he
honest,
out? Because we're going to find out real quick in the next 3 weeks if Argo is going to be changing strategy yet again. But don't ever count the Frenchman out. He's a fucking beast of a manager, and he'll figure it out before a lot of us do. So I thought that was fun. We're going to take a pause here for part 1. Ben and I are going to start hitting the vape pen or something because this is going to shape up to be a really long fucking day, and I have a lot of shit to do. So pausing here, maybe have some guests when we get back, and we'll be on to the Ivy League. Fuck yeah.